Hey everybody, we are building with blocks. This is Google's 3D modeling program for VR environment, and we're going to look at how we use these tools to build stuff in 3D. This lesson is about the controllers, the main ways we interact with our environment using these pieces. We've got two hands. You can switch hands if you're able to tap the bottoms. In some controllers, it's easier than others. My alignment isn't quite right. One hand is your painting hand. It's creating the shapes. It's usually just got one shape on it. If you point and click at any tool in your palette, you're going to switch to that tool. This one is always a tool. I can't put the tools down. It's got to be one kind of tool or another, which means if you're likely to click your trigger finger, you're going to want to watch out for that. Maybe even hold it slightly different so you can't accidentally trigger it. That's what I'm going to do for now. Fortunately, there is undo and that kind of stuff. We'll get there. For now, we're looking at our painting hand. Trigger finger is what paints. And depending on the tool you've got chosen, it will create different things. There are painting tools, there are writing tools. This is our shape creating tools where I can make blocks and spheres and cones and that type of stuff. So our painting hand trigger finger is how we create with whatever tool we've got, or erase if that's the tool we're using. The thumb pad on your painting tool. With most painting objects, like the stroke tool and the shape tool, up and down makes it larger and smaller. You can see how this column is getting larger and smaller. That's just moving my thumb up and down. Whether you use the thumb pad or your thumb joystick, up and down is the size of your painting. Now, there are some variations, so left and right with your thumb pad changes what shape you're painting with. So you can see with the shape tool, left and right gives me different shapes to create. I can create cones. I can create, let's undo that. I can create spheres. So the left and right lets you choose the specific of which tool you're using. Creating shapes, it lets you choose which shape. If I'm using the stroke tool, what's the shape of my paintbrush? Whether it's triangular or circular or square, what stroke are you painting with? With a paintbrush, it's whether you want to paint the object itself or if you're going to paint within an object. We'll get to the paint tool when we get there. But that's the main selections with your thumb pad. With the grab tool, the thumb tab's going to have, again, larger or smaller, as well as the different ways you're selecting. With the modify tool, the thumb pad is choosing what are you modifying, whether you're grabbing corners, grabbing sides. With the eraser tool, it's an eraser. So there's no real thumb controls that's going to affect that particular tool. But all of the others are going to use your thumb pad or joystick to make selections for size and options with your main painting hand. Now there is a grip sensitivity as well. Like other Google tools like Tilt Brush, if I grip with both hands, I can move the environment around me. You can see that box around me rotating as I move my hands. If I grip both and move apart, I get smaller. I'm zooming in, the whole object gets bigger. If I move my hands, grip and move them closer together, it makes the environment smaller. You can now see the corners of the box I'm in showing up on screen because I've made myself bigger as the box itself. If you use Tilt Brush, that type of control of the environment is going to be very familiar. We may do more details with that for blocks in a later episode. But that's the grip control on your blocks tool. On your other hand, this is the palette tool, the tool palette. On the face of it, you can see I can point to the different tool options. On the opposite side are more options. Things like color, texture. So depending on the tool you're using, it may affect what sort of things are going to happen. So as I'm working on one side of this hand, you'll see the tool options, and on the other side of this hand, you see color options. That's my palette, easy access. The other part of this palette are these controls along the bottom. These are sort of game options or settings. So for example, the question mark will take you through a basic tutorial, how different things work, how you're supposed to control different things. The grid option activates a little grid around your controller. This helps you get things lining up. This helps you make straight lines. This is helpful, so if I'm going to start with a cube, I can make that cube line up, and now everything else lines up with it. Without this grid, no grid, the way I draw things is exactly the way I draw it. And if my hand isn't perfect, things might not line up properly. With the grid going, it will help not only visually, but the computer itself will snap to that grid to keep your shapes in line, to keep everything perfect. That little picture at the bottom here, this third one, that is an extinct creature that used to be called a floppy disk. They don't exist anymore, but we still use that picture to represent save. Save has a couple of options. So if I let me paint something first. Something. If I go here to save, you'll notice I've got multiple options. Save simply saves what I've done, creates a new file on my computer in my blocks containing this object. Save a copy makes a duplicate. That way, for example, if I make a standard castle, I could then save a copy and make the evil castle. Save a copy and make a forest castle. Save a copy, and you get the point. Save a copy creates a duplicate and preserves the original as its own separate file. We also have publish. If your computer is connected to the internet, you can log into poly.google.com. There's a song in there somewhere. This lets you create an account where you can share these creations with other people. Publish is how you then upload this onto the internet. Share this with other people. This final option, this third option that's grayed out right now, if you select a piece of your model or several pieces of your model, you can save that particular piece. This isn't an example, but you can save certain pieces as their own option. So if it turns out you need certain pieces removed, you don't have to worry about losing everything. So the main controls here, finally we've got that plus. Plus is start again, new set, new object. So once I've finished creating this one with all of its pieces and all of its lines and all of its cubes, if I hit that plus, do you want to save everything? I don't care, no. And it takes us into a new blank environment. Now with that new environment, you'll notice when we do the save, not only is yes or no, but there is a little, let go please. There is a little cross in the corner here. That means cancel. So if you didn't mean to bring that up as an option, you don't have to start again. I can cancel and go back to what I was working on. In this case, I do want a new one, so no, don't save anything. Main controllers for Google Blocks. We're going to be doing other lessons that get into the details of how they work, but this lesson is all about what you're looking at. We've got trigger fingers, we've got grips. Trigger finger on this doesn't actually do very much, but trigger finger on this is how we draw things. And we'll be drawing things a lot. Now we do have the thumb pad on this for sizes and stuff. The thumb pad on this hand is our undo and redo. So if I've drawn something and I draw something else and I draw something else and I make a mistake, take it back, undo, My thumb trigger that way, that's to my left, takes it back. If I take it too much, thumb trigger to the right steps forward again. Redo. Bear in mind, if I unstep 2 and then do something else, it breaks the chain. I can never get this piece back because now it's a different fork of time. So I could undo this, but if I redo, it's just going to bring that one back. Undo, undo again, now everything's gone. So bear in mind, it's not going to cure everything, but we do have our undo and redo as part of our thumb trigger here. The thumb pad on the controller palette. To get into your main tools, we do have the little red button on the controller pad. That's actually triggered by, you'll notice if your controller has thumb buttons, the top button, in this case it's labeled the B button, is what brought up that menu. This is saving objects. So these are other objects I've created before. Let's get rid of you. I'm going to switch grab you to get rid of things. Throw it away. And it's gone. You can even hear a little smash. So if I draw something, I'm going to throw it this way. You can see it just like tilt brush. Throw it away when you don't need it. But back to what I was trying to talk about. B button menu. So if you do connect to the internet, the B button menu has your login, connect to the internet. It has any other models you've already created. If you're connected to the internet, you can pull in any models that you liked at poly.google.com. They will show up here so you can bring them in, remix them, add your own pieces. We'll be playing with these tools in later classes. But that's the B menu. Click the same B button to make it go away. That's what gives us our other files access to more things. The very bottom of this one is the labs. And that's starting getting into your actual options and settings. We'll go into customizing your blocks in a later lesson. But this one is just about your main controllers themselves. Palette with your main tools, as well as your palette controls, color controls, and B menu option. Painting. Thumb is your size and options. Trigger is how you paint or do whatever tool it is. So if I have my stroke, trigger draws the stroke. Thumb for bigger stroke. Undo. So building with blocks, once you get the controls comfortable, it's as easy as drawing with your primary hand and looking for what tools you need with your other hand. We'll start building models in the next lesson, but these are the controllers we're going to use for building with Blocks by Google. If this type of stuff is helpful and you want to know more, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, because this is going to be a whole series we're going to be doing over weeks and months and hopefully a long time. If this is the type of thing you'd like your friends to use, go ahead and share. But we're going to be doing Building with Blocks as a series to make simple 3D models that you can then export and use in any other 3D modeling program. Looking forward to seeing you to build some blocks.